And mate, they're drilling. They've listened to me because I said there's gold everywhere up there. Get the bloody rigs spinning. They've got this eastern stockwork corridor, which 14.5 metres at 11.5 grams, 18 metres at 6 grams. So it looks like there's some pretty big potential. Righto, money miners, nearly back.
Mate, that voice is miles better than it was yesterday, and I imagine miles better than it was the day before. I'd give you 95% back, yeah.
Mate, I'll tell you what, on the 23rd of May, it's going to be back to what it was, because on the 20 to 22nd of May, I'm going to be at the GRX conference.
You got another conference.
It's going to be another voice destroyer. Mate, the industry-led conference, that is the Centre for Tech Innovation. The future mine is going to be on display from 150 exhibitors. Mate, tell you what, and we're talking mining companies, OEMs, mining tech companies, mate, and the exclusive discount code via MOMNM, because we're just exclusive, $190 off for members, MOM, $160 off, MOMNM for non-member. And, mate, the links are in the show notes. It's on LinkedIn. Mate, you're mad if you don't take the free cash, and you're mad if you don't go.
You're going to be there again.
Because I'm going, and apparently that holds some weight these days. So, whatever, the world we live in. Go GRX, partnered with between Austmine and AusIMM.
Awesome.
Can't wait. Boys, what do we got today? We've got
a lineup that's nearly as good as the GRX conference, Matty, but not quite as good, you know. Yeah.
Your love for First Quantum continues. They're having a punt.
Yeah, they are. They've put $15 million into a company called Prospect Resources. I'm going to go into that, what it means, why they need it, and if there's going to be competitive tension in the long run. JD is going into rare earths, and
what's going on about Telfer?
In honour of the great Stuart Hines.
Telfer.
While he's chilling on...
In Spain? I think he's in Spain.
He's got a yacht, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he lives
Could have got it. Mate,
yeah.
Look, I'll show you the stock price chart. If it keeps going back up, he can buy a bigger one.
Let's go to Zambia to start, Trev. Prospect Resources and First Quantum.
I'm going down the value chain for a change, and I do want to talk about Zambian copper developer Prospect Resources. Today they revealed that First Quantum is tipping in $15 million at 15 cents, and to end up with a 15% shareholding in the company. That's a lot of 15s, gents.
Do you know they discovered that project in 2015?
I did not know that.
Because it's not true.
I was about to say that.
Importantly, the share price that First Quantum is paying for that 15% stake is reflects a 36 premium to Prospect's last traded price, and the share price today is trading around 13.5 cents, so not quite what First Quantum's paying.
All right, remind us about Prospect, how the assets sort of came into the company and what sort of happened, because there's a little interesting history in this one, isn't it?
We've touched on them in the past, and Prospect, they acquired the Mombasi project in early 2024. Before that, it was a fascinating company because 2 years earlier they sold their Arcadia lithium project in Zimbabwe to a Chinese company for US $378 million in cash. What did they do with the money? They distributed the overwhelming majority of it to shareholders. 95% of the cash they distributed via dividend and a capital return. They only in Aussie dollar terms, it was like net proceeds of $466 million. The company only kept 34 million of that in Prospect, but that was enough for the team to get their hands on the Mombasi copper project in due course, while staying funded enough for exploration work once they kind of got hold of it. And the project is interesting because it's in the Central African copper belt, kind of straddling the border of Zambia and the DRC, but on the Zambian side, as you can see on this map. But just look at the vicinity of what is neighbouring this project, right? First Quantum's Sentinel operation is just 25 kilometres away to the west there. Now, Sentinel has processing capacity for 62 million tonnes per annum of material, and it produces 225,000 tonnes of copper per annum. It is a monster.
That's phenomenal thinking of that amount of tonnes for that amount of copper.
It's low grade, right? But I mean everything's
62 million tonne. Jesus.
It's a big operation. I do think when we interviewed Mike Christie, he referred to First Quantum's acquisition of the project in 2010 for US $230 million. I think he referred to that as deal of the century. Do you remember that quote? I feel like he did. Anyway.
No, it doesn't come to mind.
Let's run with it.
He's clearly biased, but undoubtedly, like, Sentinel has been a tremendous asset that has transformed kind of First Quantum. And then to the east, you can see on this map, a bit more than 30 kilometres away, you've got Barrick's Lumwana copper operation. Now, Lumwana is currently 27 million tonnes per annum, and that produces 120,000 tonnes of copper per year. But Barrick is planning to turn Lumwana into a super pit. They want to, make it a tier 1 asset, which it currently isn't, and that means scale. So they're planning on doubling the processing capacity to 64 million tonnes per annum, and they hope to also double copper production to 240,000 tonnes per annum.
Just to think back, De Groot was 1.6 million tonne for 65,000 tonne of copper. Different scale, is it?
It is. Absolutely is.
So how does Prospect fit into this then with the majors around it, mate?
This year, Prospect, they dropped their maiden resource plus they secured 2 large-scale mining licenses from the Zambian government. The maiden mineral resource estimate, 107 million tonnes at 0.5% copper for 514,000 tonnes of contained copper. And in the latest trend that's just everywhere you look, there was also an exploration target, another 420 million to 1,050 million extra tonnes of material at a similar-ish grade is in the exploration target. So there's line of sight to a fair bit of ore there at modest grade, that 0.5%, right? The question is that you have to figure out, does First Quantum or Barrick need that feed? And if they do, when do they need it? On Barrick, their Lumwana super pit ambitions, I think they say the expansion is going to be about $2 billion. But doing what they're going to embark on at Lumwana will kind of establish mine life there out until 2060 by super pitting it. Perhaps, prospects or could displace some of the mine plan earlier or provide blending benefits. I'm not entirely sure, but let's move on for now to First Quantum. First Quantum Sentinel is a massive 62 million tonnes per annum, and their current feed grade is around that 0.5% copper mark right now too. Maybe kind of slightly lower than that. But there's also this technical report on Sentinel that came out in 2020, and what it showed was that the mill could be fed at 62 million tonnes per annum up until 2032. However, the grade really falls off substantially between 2029 and 2033. Look at this chart, and you can just see like that, between 2028 and 2029 there, it just falls from 0.49% to 0.34%, where it unfortunately stays for quite a number of years. And that's a very substantial drop-off in grade, which of course would mean much lower production. So you can pretty easily see now why First Quantum is going to be interested in putting its claim on Prospect resources right now. There's feed that could clearly displace the low-grade ore there and have a substantial impact on the incremental value that First Quantum get out of Sentinel.
Yeah, wow.
Once you convince yourself that First Quantum need this and that they need it before 2029, then you just have to do the math on what the incremental value to First Quantum is. The market cap of Prospect Resources is under $100 million Australian at the moment. I read Hoffy's analysis sort of suggesting incremental value to First Quantum could be between US 450 million and US 600 million if they were feeding this through Sentinel in time. But I don't think a deal gets done at full MPV here. A deal if a deal happens, there's got to be something on the table for First Quantum to still get benefit out of it as well. So
they got their foot on them.
They've got their foot on them, and that's important because you've got Barrick in the region who the ore could have reasonably also gone towards if it suited the mine plan too. But First Quantum's there. They've got their foot on that. There's rights that come with the investment too, including board representation and the like. So. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm going to watch it. I'd expect in due course. No sense of urgency now because they've got their foot on them. But in due course, I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of wrapped up by First Quantum.
Yeah, right. So, anything else interesting about this?
In addition to First Quantum's investment here, Prospect, they have this existing 15% shareholder called Eagle Eye Asset Holdings. They are also tipping in $3 million at 15 cents to retain their own 15% shareholding in the company. Eagle Eye is interesting. I had to look into them because I was like, have they got another strategic? But it's not a strategic investor on the register. It's the mining investment division of a family office called Fortuna Holdings SFO. And if you're trying to figure out family office, which family, good luck finding kind of public disclosure of which family it is. It's not available in the kind of the public domain of Fortuna. All it refers to in all of their docs is the promoter family. However, one of the other companies that Eagle Eye is a substantial shareholder of on the ASX is Canyon Resources, and you can see the signatory on the recent change in substantial notice for them on Canyon is is Gaurav Gupta. Now,
Aussie fella.
Aussie fella, yeah. You won't find any kind of public details that link Gaurav Gupta, I'm probably saying his first name wrong, to the Gupta that is very controversial in South Australia right now, Sanjeev Gupta. Gaurav is the CEO of Adani Capital. Adani, of course, is, there's lots of links to a different sort of set of Guptas, but there is a lot of connection. There is connection between Guptas, but anyway, for simplicity.
Is that the same Adani that was doing the coal mine in Queensland, or a different Adani? Or?
That's Adani Group, and then there was these financial divisions, and then you had kind of, because of the whole green seal drama, it kind of got chopped up. And anyway, this is just like one of the financial bits that was chopped up. It's the way I read it.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, but Eagle Eye isn't Adani. That's just somehow Gaurav is signatory, and Gaurav is also CEO of Adani Capital. For simplicity, it appears to be Gupta money. I'm just not sure which Guptas, but anyway.
Yeah,
I found all that fascinating.
Yeah, cool. Right. Looking at that region, you know what I'm thinking.
What are you thinking, Matty?
What would be the most out there thing that you think would pop into my head after your discussion? You've known me for 2 years. Could you imagine a mega merger between Barrick and First Quantum?
It's.
I was about to say that they've tried, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Why? Literally 2 years ago,
Barrick bid for First Quantum. No joy, but yeah, it's certainly. I mean, there's massive synergies there, right? And I think Lumwana has been a fair bit harder for Barrick than Barrick envisaged, and Sentinel was maybe kind of would help unlock it in a way that was more straightforward. And First Quantum had, I think they've got a big shareholder on the register which helped them knock it back, but I can't remember. Anyway.
First Quantum have a very big Chinese shareholder. Do you see Barrick also dropped gold they're trying to drop gold from their name right now because they want to become a copper miner? Too bad their ticker is GOLD. We'll have to work on that one.
That's a bit,
But with Rico Dick and everything, they are moving more and more toward being a copper miner.
And I don't think First Quantum would ever want that, by the way, even though maybe they could get a premium, all that sort of stuff. But the culture of First Quantum, like we've talked about, is nothing like the culture at a place like Barrick, and that place would, the thing that really drives it and why it's efficient and why it's lean and why they can do so much, yada yada, that would be completely eroded if it was engulfed by a Barrick.
Yeah, because Barrick aren't lean.
They're not lean. They're not entrepreneurial. They don't kind of take bold risks in a nimble and fast way in the same way that First Quantum is empowered to do.
I think it'd be a lot harder for Barrick to deploy capital to get a lot of change to go through to get that happening.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Mate, buddy, sit back, Stewie Irons. Most famous Greatland Gold shareholder. And if anyone can become a more famous one, I'll buy you a carton of piss. Most famous retail shareholder.
Okay. Yeah.
Most definitely. So at least we've got a free link coming up on Twitter because he always gives us a share. Have a look at Greatland. He's up 120% in the past year, up to £14. And I think they, after the raise and stuff, they were back down at 6. So it's had a good bloody rise since they've it's all gone through after the capital raise. If you look at the long term chart here,
is it pounds or pence?
Pence.
Pence.
Pence. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a pound and a pence?
So pence is like 0 point. It's like the cents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cents and dollars.
Oh yeah, that's why bloody Glencore's like fucking 284.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like $2.80 or 280
pence.
It is confusing where they put the decimal though, and it says GBP, but it's fucking.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Got it now. Yep. Lord save the Queen.
Yeah.
Bloody no, God save the Queen. God save the Queen.
The king now.
Right. True. Go, Charles. He's the king here. Yeah. Lose track of all these. Right. Greatland. Look at the bloody long term. It's like, Stewie, you might get the bloody... It's coming back. It is coming back. Look at the ultimate high. I think, what was the high? About 38. So, mate, it is on the rise again. Plenty happening at Telfer. Plenty happening at bloody Havieron. With that much going on, they definitely need to bloody... Call KCA. That is just pretty, mate. They probably need 38 ITs on site up there.
They probably need more.
Oh, mate, and no one else in Australia has 38 ITs other than KCA. And if they need more, KCA got more coming in the next 6 months. Mate, that road between Telfer and Havieron needs to be maintained. A KCA grader arrived this month. perfect bloody home for that. And
They'll probably need people too, Matty.
mate, and KCA can deliver them in all shapes and forms on a variety of arrangements. And I tell you, like, we're talking ITs, machinery, people, and you just have to pick up the phone and call KCA.
It's a pretty simple message.
Oh, bloody hell. What a bloody, cheers, KCA.
Alrighty, tell us about the quarterly, mate.
So, the highlights, 250, these are in Aussie dollars, 253 mil of free cash flow, debt-free, closing cash balance of nearly 400 Aussie. So, there's been 3 and a bit months, nearly 4 months of Greatland production, because they released those partial December numbers. Now this is their first, you'd say, full quarter. So 90,000 ounces of gold produced, all in sustaining costs 2,100 Aussie. Remember, they've got copper associated well, so 3,500 tonne of copper as well. I assume they'd have a little bit of rehandling onto the all-in sustaining, because there's some stockpiles they produced as well. So gold recoveries, there was a big improvement, 86.7%. So previously, I think they were modelling 78%. So recovery was really good. And they've just approved and commenced mining in the Stage 7 cutback for the new West Dome open pit. So they've released a guidance, which they hadn't previously. So gold production for FY25, so essentially 6 and a bit months, 196 to 210,000 ounces. And looking to pump about 100 mil of growth capital in it. So that's going to be around 7 months of Greatland ownership. So, and mate, they're drilling. They've listened to me, because I said there's gold everywhere up there. Get the bloody rigs spinning. And
they are.
I think they're going to, what do they say? They're going to have 6 by June quarter. They're adding another 2, and they're going to have 6 drill rigs up there, which is the most they've had up there since 2020. I'll go over some of the results later. So you can see here the beauty of the gold price. Their average realised price for the quarter, 4,585, and just look at how much bloody better this environment is compared to Newcrest. So the Newcrest days, and that's 4,585, and then you can imagine this quarter. So
it's pretty awesome that that gold price dynamic is also just let them completely clean up the balance sheet to, there's no debt, yada yada, and B, reinvested into the growth of Telfer as well at the same time as they're bringing everyone online, because that can buy you more time as well in terms of replenishing your stockpiles and the likes. Yeah. And like so for 250 free cash this quarter, so up the gold price, and I think there's going to be a bit lower recovery in the coming quarter, but like that's what was Havieron's, I think their latest capex was $480 US predicted in the 2021 numbers. So like it's going to be $1 billion plus, but they've got a good opportunity here to generate a lot of free cash to take the pressure off that capex and not have to tap the market or the debt facility. Maybe. Their IPO on ASX is, I think, scheduled for June.
Scheduled for June. Yeah. I think they're just going through the process of the admission from the AIM, all the votes that go, the scheme votes and all that go with it. So it's scheduled for June.
And look at this, an AIM company, and everything's reported in Aussie dollars.
Yeah. It's because they're looking after, Stewie Hines is over there. I think Stewie might have asked that, well, can we have it all in Aussie dollars? So good on you.
Fair enough.
So all milled. So for nearly 4.6 million tonne milled, 0.68 grams gold. So from that, there was 2.6 of actual ore mined from open pits, 278,000 tonne from underground. So it looks like they went through about 1.9 million tonne of stockpiles. So remember and the 2/3 of that stockpile, you got 20 million tonne at very low grade at 0.33, and they got 9.2 million tonne at 0.64, which is around what they're doing. So they're not just running that whole stockpile through the dual trains. They've bloody just chipping away as they need it, courtesy of the Newmont folk that left them there. So that's given them a good runway. But so they're not not just sitting there, because that's what would have killed them if they just bloody sat there and processed stockpiles. But they're hammering the underground. It's bloody, and the open pits. It's good, and you see the recovery, 86.7% compared to historically ranging from 78 to 82. But they've flagged that the June 2025 quarter is probably going to be back around 82, saying the stage 7 area of the West Dome was historically a lot lower recovery due to the oxidation state. So I don't think you'd get used to the 86%. So you can see in this picture here, they've got the stage 7 and the stage 2, 5 and 8, I think it is. They're mining in the West Dome. Then they're down the bottom of the mine in the A Reef, the Ray, and then doing some mining up in the M Reef, which is a bit higher up. So that's where all the ore's coming from at the moment. So, and you look at the drilling they're doing. So this looks like pretty close to the bottom, the A Reef, and, 5 metres at 6 grams, 8.3 at 4.6. So, as I said, there's bloody gold. And it's only from like 16 metres from 85 metres. So they've must be just these parallel structures they've punching off an existing ore drive or a drill drive to find these new lodes. So based on those distances, it's not that far to develop out to those areas. Then they got this looked bloody pretty cool, up in the M Reef. So the M Reef's is higher up, sort of halfway down effectively. Like the caves at bottom of the cave was about 1,000, 1,100. M Reef's was sort of top bit and down to halfway. So they've got this eastern stockwork corridor, which 14.5 metres at 11.5 grams, 18 metres at 6 grams. So it looks like there's some pretty
good grade there,
big potential. And looks like 1,000-metre strike target, 100 metres wide, 40 metres high. So that's what I said. Just got to get those friggin' drills pumping. So looks like, and as you mentioned before, ASX listing in June 2025. I think their market cap, I think it works out at the moment, Aussie 3.8 billion. So it's actually a couple hundred million less than Genesis. But how you compare that, look at what they're producing, look at the infrastructure they've got. Havieron the best thing about this Havieron job is, for them, it's going to be a freaking big job, and it will have challenges with the water. But they've got Telford ticking along. So it's not like it's all going to have this bloody primary focus like a single asset company on what Havieron's doing. Because you've got Telford ticking away and you're still going to be producing and you're hopefully going to be making money. So, because last one was, what are they talking about? 2.8 million tonne, I think that was their last study. No doubt they're probably going to want to get more out of it. That was for US 476 CapEx. So, but I would imagine probably going to need at least $1 billion, because they're going to have to chuck
Aussie.
Yeah.
Because that number's 750, 800 Aussie anyway.
They're going to, the haulage system, because they won't be just hauling it up a bloody single decline. So there'd be either a haulage shaft or another decline going in, which will be a conveyor system.
It could be well over $1 billion.
Oh, well over. Yeah. It's going to be a big job. And then that's primary crusher underground. You've got all the ventilation shafts. And remember, every piece of shaft, decline, everything has to go through that water table. And I don't think they're actually at the big water yet. So there's a lot of, and I know they've probably done it before. They know what's coming up, so they'll know how to get through it. But it doesn't still make it quicker to get through it. It's gonna be a big job. It's not just going to be let's rip in and get 3 million tonne out of the joint. So
size the prize.
A lot of infrastructure to deal with that water. I assume you got to put it somewhere. Gero James needs to run his eye over that joint, mate. The team at WA Waterbores have seen more water than the Titanic. They've mate, and you know how long the Titanic's been dealing with water, mate.
It's a 3-hour-long movie. It's a long time,
mate. Titanic looks at it all day, just like Gero James and the WA. And they're not just the best mud rotary drillers in the world. They're just the best water people in the world. They know how to find it. They know the methods how to get rid of it, to store it, to put the bore fields in, to put the dewatering bores. Like, mate, you just need him up there as an expert water consultant to run his eye over the job.
I'd go one further. Not just the best water people in the world, one of the best people in the world.
Definitely the best people in Jarrah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I guarantee.
Jarrah's got good people.
Probably Australia. So, mate, just get him up there. He's the only man in Australia that can do it, I reckon.
If the aquifers tricky, then Jerry James will help you.
Hey, mate, get him up there. So, yeah, no, exciting. Done bloody good job. Good numbers, good cash. Well done to the transition crew on site. So, I look forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, I think
can't wait till they're on the ASX. Then the presentations are just easier to get to.
I think the last comment on that one would be it's very interesting. It'd be interesting to see how they go about their Aussie raising.
They're not raising money.
Well, they said that in the past, obviously. So
yeah, I don't think they're raising money.
I mean, they
shouldn't need to.
It's a compliance listing, I think.
Yeah, it was just interesting that hired 3 brokers for it. Sort of thought that was a bit curious.
Yeah, I don't know. They say they're not raising money, but
companies have said that before.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a way to get invest funds as well. Love buying in a whack like that. Not that it's great for existing shareholders, and that's kind of why they did the previous raise. There might be
a big shareholder that can sell down, kind of like when Capstone came over, they didn't raise money, but Orion sold down, and then obviously brokers placed that stock and got a fee on that.
There we go. Right, let's get on to rare earths, JD. The bloody bit going on. The rare earths, bit of gains today.
Yeah, quite a bit going on, and I'll start up by saying I feel pretty unqualified to speak about this because it's. I've been
doing this for 2 years. So you are quite fine.
There are big forces at play here in the rare earths market, and I think what we're seeing right now is one of the most influential stories in the commodities market, and it will be for the year and for quite some time to come. So let's give it a bit of a go and chat about it. I think the eye-catching part of this story is what we've seen in stocks like MP Materials. So they jumped over 20% last night. Obviously, MP Materials is America's golden child when it comes to rare earths. They are the owner of the sole operating rare earth mine in the USA. It's in California, Mountain Pass.
Wasn't always the golden child when it was Molycorp.
It certainly wasn't. It had a tough time, but the new owners have done a bit better out of it than previous owners have. Now that positivity has been seen on the ASX as well. Not so much in Lynas, although they've gone sort of from strength to strength, but you've seen big jumps at the smaller end of town from the likes of Meteoric and others. And
great day to release a mineral resource upgrade.
A good day indeed. Yeah, we're seeing sort of plus 20% moves. And I just want to make a quick comment. I think with how mainstream this kind of debate about rare earths and critical minerals has gone, I think you need to kind of be careful. There's pretty kind of liberal use of the words critical minerals, rare earths and everything. And you know, it's a bit confusing at times because I think people use it very interchangeably. You know, rare earths, critical minerals, they're all getting tied in. And I think the perspective we all kind of have is if you need it, if you can't produce it, it is critical. You know, rare earths is something completely different, obviously. But the US is learning pretty quickly that a lot of these minerals are quite critical for them because they don't have the capacity to produce them. And that's why they're at the crux of this trade war, and that's why we've seen these pretty dramatic moves. There's been an evolution in the trade war, and to be honest, I think people were kind of actually sleeping on it a little bit. Like what we saw with how China reacted to the tariffs coming on was over a week ago now, and yeah, the US has started to do bits and pieces, but people didn't quite perhaps acknowledge, and I put myself in that camp as well, how kind of positive this would be for national champions being MP Materials, being Lynas here in Australia, and the other kind of main players. And yeah, I mean, it's no surprise to us, China refines 85% of rare earths. Even the operation in the States, the US is actually the second biggest producer of rare earths, but 2/3 of their stuff gets sent to China for processing. So these are all challenges that the West needs to tackle. And rare earths are one of, the best, or maybe the kind of perfect market for China to put the squeeze on, right? Because if you're Chinese and you look at the rare earths market, it's really not a massive part of your economy, but it's crucial to a whole heap of things downstream in the US. So it's something they can really pinch and really hurt their enemies overseas. And yeah, I think this is nothing new to most of the people who listen to the potty, so we can kind of get into it in a bit more detail. But I think the wider world outside the very small audience that knows about commodities is learning about this very quickly.
So what was the actual news that made the stocks soar overnight?
So Trump came out and spoke about creating sort of a critical metals stockpile, and it was kind of interesting how it all came about. There was reports that he would sign an executive order that will allow the US to create this stockpile from minerals that would be mined from the floor of the Pacific Ocean. And I kind of ignored that last bit about mining from the bottom of the ocean, and I think that's what most investors did, piling into MP Materials, because the US does have projects and deposits in its country. It just hasn't been interested in developing them because the Chinese have flooded the market for the last 20 or 30 years. We spoke about, Trav and I, last week, what the Chinese had done, and they were very specific. They handpicked a certain number of elements, particularly the heavy rare earth elements, and what they did was more or less put export controls on without kind of saying that, and we've seen it in the numbers already. Shipments and exports of these minerals have slowed right down. So people are feeling the pinch already, and you can see that there's sort of quotes in some articles going around from chemical suppliers in places like Los Angeles saying that it's going to take 45 days for them to get an export license, and in that interim, they're not getting anything shipped over from China. So if they don't have the inventory, they're caught pretty short at the moment. And as well as that, you've got the Chinese adding a lot of American companies, specifically military-related companies, to their kind of naughty list, which means Chinese companies can't deal with them whatsoever, can't do any sort of business with them. So it's getting pretty sort of cagey in that realm. And if you look around the world, you go to, say, Japan, for instance, they felt the brunt of rare earths, specifically in amidst a trade war when they sent some of their ships into Chinese water. And they, because of that lesson, some of them keep over a year's worth of inventory on hand now. American companies don't do that. That is dead capital. That's a drag on your returns. They're holding maybe a few months at most in inventory of these magnets and other bits and pieces that you might need. Exactly. It's the world we live in, just-in-time manufacturing. And the Japanese, who went through that painful experience, and at the back of that we saw Linus and everything sort of emerge, they learned their lesson, and they keep a lot of inventory on hand. So, yeah, I mean, if we go around and look back in the States at a company like MP Materials, they still have Chinese ties, right? Like Shanghai, the Chinese rare earth player, was a big backer of them getting their feet off the ground from being a SPAC in the late 2010s to where we are today. And they still send 2/3 of their concentrate to China. So it's really the implicit backing that the US government would be behind them that is sent a fair bit of capital, chasing them. They're up, I think, 40% on the year now in the face of a pretty tough broader market, as we all know. And yeah, closer to home, Linus is trading very strongly, pretty far away from any kind of basic valuations that we kind of like to employ.
I could see why you were talking to your computer today, JD. You've gone deep and philosophical on rare earths today. Like a real global understanding of this.
Trying to, mate. I'm trying to.
Because you're trying to make sense of, like, what does the politics actually mean to the free cash flow of these companies? Because if you have a hefty valuation, it's got to be kind of substantiated by some free cash flow at the end of the day, and just trying to piece all that together is the question mark. Are they
Especially
trading up?
When it changes every night?
Yeah. Are they? Is it thematic? Is it just like a thematic move, and then kind of they'll fall off and nothing really changes, or is there actually a meaningful difference into free cash flow?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it maybe 2 months ago now, and thought, like, when's Linus going to do a capital raising? And I don't feel that differently about that. Their cash pile is kind of dwindling. We haven't seen rare earth prices tick up massively. It's obviously a very kind of opaque market, so take that with a pinch of salt. But you're not getting there on valuation grounds right now. But with the backing of Western governments around the world, maybe you do kind of get there. It's a different way of kind of looking at it.
Because you don't know if the price ticks up, you don't know what the payability's doing in China. Like, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. To add a few more comments to US and Western policy, because there has been some more comments made to what we heard about Trump just before. I actually don't think what we're seeing right now is a massive change in the States from the previous administration. The previous Biden administration, they spoke about this a fair bit. They allocated money to sort of certain similar buckets, rare earths and these types of projects being one of them. There are certainly varying opinions in how effective they were with spraying that cash around. That's fair enough, but you can't accuse them of sort of not putting the capital up. We saw it with a lot of ASX listed companies. They were recipients of this sort of money. There were still a lot of delays, regulatory, environmental, all these sort of hold-ups. They were an impediment even if the money was dealt out. And I think Lynas is the perfect example of this. They were awarded nearly US $260 million in 2023 to build a processing facility at Seadrift in Texas. And as of today, construction hasn't started. We're 2 years later, and that comes down to environmental and wastewater management delays. So
on those delays, is part of the new administration is like a promise to fast track.
Yeah. And the same goes for Resolution, Copper Mine, all these. There was Trilogy Metals is another one whose stock ticked up massively because of the understanding that the sort of red tape around projects is going to get pulled back. So we'll wait and see what kind of happens on that. I was also listening to an interview at lunch today when I was just eating before, an interview with Treasury.
What you do at lunch.
It's true. This was an interview with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who I'm sure most listeners will be pretty familiar with now. And something he said in this interview, I wasn't listening to this for any sort of take on minerals or anything mining related, but he said something that really sort of stood out to me. So I'll play it now.
There's been an early focus on Latin America writ large from the Trump administration in the first 100 days. Is Latin America policy also, in a sense, China policy for this administration?
Well, I think that might be a good description, because what we are trying to keep from happening is what has happened on the African continent, where China has signed a number of these kind of rapacious deals marked as aid, where they are really, they've taken mineral rights, they've added huge amounts of debt onto these countries' balance sheets. It's undisclosed to any of the other international organizations. They've got tolling arrangements. So they're guaranteeing that future generations are going to be the poor and without resources. And we don't want that to happen any more than it already has in Latin America.
I find that super fascinating. And that is much wider than rare earths, obviously. But for one, I think Latin America is going to be a winner in the years ahead. We saw with all these tariffs that came out, Latin America, to an extent, was carved out of a lot of them. They didn't cop the brunt of it because America is realizing how important that is. So I think, maybe we see some Aussie juniors be winners, the ones maybe with Brazilian rare earth projects and these sorts of things be winners. I think first and foremost, you're a winner if you're in America, but that is a notable different tone from the US than it has been for the last 20 or 30 years. I'm not sure if you guys had a different take on that.
I agree. I am curious. I mean, this is talk of a stockpile or a strategic reserve. You've been thinking a bit more about the rationale for stockpiles versus downstream.
Yeah, I mean, we heard about this. We spoke about it when we were in Africa, and you have the kind of debate of, should a country that doesn't know how to do this, say in rare earths in Australia, just build the downstream processing, or should they build up a strategic reserve, and then if a particularly prickly moment happens in future, then you have to kind of hit the ground running and build your downstream capability.
Are these stockpiles going to be like just mixed rare earth concentrate stockpiles or finished rare earth stockpiles?
I would be stockpiling, if I was going to build a stockpile, the product that your manufacturing needs or you need, because there's no point having having a stockpile, right, if there's a gap between what that stockpile is and what you actually need it for. I.e. if you're in America and you've got car makers, there's no point having stockpiles of rare earth concentrate. You want a stockpile of magnets or something like that much further downstream. And this is very kind of early discussion. Madeleine King, our resource minister, was actually speaking about this yesterday. There was a few articles circling about, I'm not sure how far Australia gets along in the process because we don't have the manufacturing, and there isn't a massive interest around Australia to build that manufacturing capacity. So what we be stockpiling it for? Send it back to China so they can build the stuff for us? I don't quite know, but I think it is something with America's kind of made in America policy that they're going to be considering pretty heavily over the coming decades, and particularly over the next year or two. So certainly sort of one to watch. I don't think there's any kind of easy answers out there, but I think for what's most relevant to listeners of this podcast, I think there are projects like in America specifically that are maybe going to get favourable treatment and going to do quite well, and MP Materials is the best example of that, but there's other players that I think might have a good run of it too. Very good.
Good, buddy. I'm gonna re-listen to that. That was very good.
Hopefully it made sense.
Yeah. No, it didn't. That's why I'm going to re-listen to it.
Many peaks. Trav.
Oh no, I just thought it was funny. I've got nothing to say about this other than the fact that the Many Peaks share price now looks like it's loco.
There you go.
Many Peaks.
Good point. I love the plug. Beautiful. Good work, boys. All right, thanks to the partners. GRX tickets, as talked about at the start of the show. Go into the show notes, get your discount, get there, Brisbane, 22nd of May. Our great other partners, the Stalemates. Mineral Mining Services, Grounded, Sandvik Ground Support, CRE Insurance, K-Drill, WA Waterbores, Quattro, KCA, Black Diamond Drilling Services, Cross Boundary Energy.
Hooroo.
Hooroo.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation and needs.